The 1998 film Antz is not just a movie, it's a map. The title itself encodes the theme. It begins with A and ends with Z. In Christian theology, Jesus Christ declares in Revelation 22:16, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the root and the offspring of David, and the bright morning star. Z is the cinematic reflection of that archetype in motion. Alpha and Omega are not merely letters, they symbolize totality, creation and revelation contained within a single consciousness, moving through extremes without being trapped by them. He navigates the spectrum and refuses blind obedience. Even the letter Z is crooked, a wrench in the gears, a disruptor, awareness, friction. Z is the gadfly inside a rigid system that assigns identity at birth, soldier or worker, strength or labor, authority or service. No deviation, no wiggle room. The general even declares, individualism is dangerous. Polarization maintains and is the foundation of order. Two options create the illusion of freedom, but the boundaries are absolute. Function defines identity. Identity enforces obedience. Individuality becomes irrelevant. Z destabilizes this system not through force, but through refusal of unconscious participation. The first boundary is crossed when he switches places with Weaver. Worker meets soldier. Mind meets muscle. They are opposites within the same hierarchy. Before royalty, before romance, before revolution, Z confronts polarity at his own level. The worker enters the battlefield, the soldier enters manual labor. Identity dissolves through exposure. This is not yet integration, it is oscillation. Each experiences the other extreme without synthesizing it. The system wobbles, awareness begins. Later, Z meaningfully encounters Princess Bala. Now polarity shifts vertically. Worker meets royalty. Perspective destabilizes again. Z glimpses responsibility beyond himself, beyond his station. Bala glimpses vulnerability outside privilege. Extremes are exposed but still not reconciled. The colony strains under these crossings. At one point, Bala remarks, "You talk too much." Z jokes back, "Maybe I should be the silent tough guy instead." This small exchange is a meta-commentary. It confirms to the audience the theme of extremes. Speech and silence, soft and hard. These are not opposites to reject, but dimensions to navigate consciously. Awareness emerges not by abandoning one extreme for the other, but by holding both in tension, observing and choosing intentionally. Meanwhile, General Mandible consolidates power. He speaks of unity while engineering division. He sacrifices soldiers under the guise of honor and dismantles the colony's defenses while claiming it is for the good of the colony. Eventually, he declares, "I am the colony." That statement is the reveal. Ego and system collapse into one. Authority and identity fuse. Blind loyalty shatters. The Queen declares, "We have all been deceived." Chaos ensues. Awareness without integration creates panic. Mandible holds both extremes, worker and soldier, unity and destruction, but not to reconcile them, only to mimic in form, but not in essence. He manipulates them, embodying totality without awareness. He plays good and bad when convenient for him. Z, in contrast, embodies conscious totality. He is good and bad when necessary, by choice, not by ego. Mandible acts from fixation and pride. Z acts from awareness. The Alpha and Omega archetype is fully expressed only when extremes are navigated consciously. Wisdom and innocence, strength and mercy, wise as serpents and innocent as doves, as the Bible says. These are held together in integrated awareness. The symbolism extends to history and modernity. The Roman Emperor Tiberius can be seen as the corrupted reflection of Jesus, both living in the same historical moment, yet embodying radically different responses to power and consciousness. Where Jesus represents true integration, navigating extremes without being ruled by either, Tiberius enacts the archetype through ego, fear, and moral compromise. He begins disciplined, capable, even noble, but over time his reign becomes withdrawn, indulgent, and morally corrupt. He rules from isolation on Capri, the island whose name literally means kids, emphasizing the eerie, almost ironic link between authority and innocence, and contemporaneous with the very life of Jesus himself. Jesus models the true archetype of integration. Extremes coexist, overlap, and flow together consciously, the two rivers converging in the same direction. Tiberius perverts this principle. He holds polarity, but the currents remain parallel, never integrated, producing moral decay and isolation. History repeats this pattern. Rulers imitate the symbols of totality, yet fail to embody the consciousness necessary to harmonize the extremes. Integration is not oscillation or dominance, it is convergence. The rivers meet, merge, and move forward as one. Tiberius remains the cautionary echo, extremes unintegrated, form without essence, the alpha and omega inverted. Being bad is not moral corruption, It is refusing to consent to wrongdoing, enforcing boundaries, and acting with discernment. Being good is not complacency, it is empathy and openness. Integration is conscious action, not ego-driven rationalization. The flood of extremes, apocalypse, revelation, disclosure, is not destruction. It's initiation of awareness. Antz becomes a parable of lucidity. The colony, like history, mirrors consciousness. Soldiers and workers, authority and individuality, speech and silence, these polarities are tested. The megaflood was never the end of the world. Apocalypsis in Greek means the end of the epoch. Revelatio in Latin means the reveal. Neither of these means annihilation. The threshold tests awareness. Alpha and Omega repeats across narrative, history, and culture. Extremes arise, awareness perceives them, collapse occurs, revelation unfolds, and integration is a conscious choice. When Z tells the workers to stop digging or they'll die, the supervisor says, "Under whose authority?" Z replies, "Your own authority." Not rebellion, not blind conformity, self-authority. Awareness navigating extremes consciously, seeing the flood of information, disclosures, and currents of power, yet remaining sovereign. Integration begins within. Conscious navigation becomes survival. Mandible's plan escalates polarity to its breaking point. He sacrifices the colony's defenders so that they may be defenseless. Then he positions the workers as guests of honor, just so they can drown there. The megatunnel flood becomes literal and symbolic apocalypse, a washing away of the old order. The tunnel itself remains hidden until the end. Revelation arrives with the flood. The turning point is cooperation. Z tells the Antz to work together. It's the only way out. Extremes must meet, individuality and unity. This archetype appears in modern networks of hidden influence. In recent weeks, the US government released a massive batch of documents and photographs from the long-awaited Jeffrey Epstein files, including images featuring Epstein alongside numerous high-profile figures such as filmmaker Woody Allen. These materials, previously hidden, are now exposed to public view. Just like in Antz, the narrative moves from disruption to revelation. The disruptor Z asks the questions, challenges the hierarchy, and influences awareness, destabilizing rigid structures and forcing the others to see differently. In real life, the released photos of Epstein and Woody mirrors this archetype. The disruptor Z/Allen exists beside the manipulator Mandible/Epstein. Epstein operated among billionaires and celebrities, ruling from a distance, insulated from consequence. Soldiers and workers were removed, cleared or manipulated. The juxtaposition is uncanny. Woody Allen, the voice actor of Z and Antz, destabilizes the fictional system from within, while Epstein, the real-world embodiment of covert power, sits beside him in plain sight. Disruption and control, awareness and manipulation, extremes and mimicry, simultaneously displayed, both in fiction and in reality. The truth is now visible, first hidden, now exposed, just as the colony and later consciousness itself is tested and awakened. The pattern repeats. Disruption, vision, speech. Concealment, exposure, revelation, conscious navigation. Awareness rises when extremes are perceived and the cycle becomes visible, both in fiction and reality. Consciousness and control, integration and manipulation, play out in parable. Scale expands. Individual becomes collective. Body becomes world. Government becomes mind. East and West hemispheres echo polarity. One God, many gods. Ancient extremes demonstrate imbalance. Geography encodes the same principle. The original prime meridian ran along the Nile, marking the true middle. When it was later moved to Greenwich, the middle shifted toward the modern Middle East, distorting the natural balance. If the meridian line had remained along the Nile, the symmetry of East and West would have been clearer, and it would have illuminated why Jesus plays the role of the balanced being, not because he is superior or the only way to salvation, but because his presence exemplifies integration between extremes. Observe the symbolism. East embodies mercy, where Buddhists meditate. West embodies severity, where Aztecs performed endless sacrifice. Christianity spread as a corrective to these imbalances, because in the eyes of the church, balance itself was being propagated. Morning star and evening star, Alpha and Omega. Morning star Jesus and evening star Lucifer, Alpha and Omega. Awareness arises when you perceive not only the extremes but also the possibility of convergence. If you examine the prime meridian at Greenwich today, the symbolism is still physically visible underfoot. On one side, the bricks curve, bending with perspective. On the other, the bricks are rigid and straight. The line claims to mark the center of balance, yet the ground itself exposes the illusion. One side is flexible, the other inflexible. Together they are not integrated, they are merely juxtaposed. By controlling both hemispheres, those in power assert the appearance of balance. But this is authoritarianism masquerading as order. True authority was never about ruling the world, it was about sovereignty over the self. mastery of consciousness, awareness of extremes, and integration from within. These are the hallmarks of real balance, not the imposition of control across a distorted center. So do the Masons rule the world? Well, they might try to leave their mark all over the world, whether it's in the movies or in architecture. But if they're controlled by their desires, then they can't even control themselves. True power is balance, inner and outer.